Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a creature that is so incredibly tough, it actually survives temperatures colder than the surface of Mars. We're talking about an animal that travels thousands of kilometers across floating ice without any kind of map, all while looking, well, deceptively cute and harmless. But trust me, behind that fluffy white coat is literally one of nature's greatest survival machines. We're going to unpack the unbelievable secrets of the Arctic fox, a predator perfectly built for a place where almost nothing else can survive.
So, what exactly survives temperatures colder than Mars? I mean, it kind of sounds like the setup for a sci-fi movie, right? But no, this is reality. We've got this insane contrast here. On one side, you have this deadly, freezing environment, a frozen wasteland where food basically vanishes for weeks and temperatures regularly plunge below -50 degrees Celsius. And on the other hand, you have this tiny 3 to 4 kilogram ball of fluff that just vanishes into the ice like a ghost. It really makes you wonder, how does a mammal that small even exist in a place that brutal?
Section 1. The biological hardware, engineered for the extreme.
To wrap our heads around this, you really have to look at the Arctic fox as a sort of fur-covered survival capsule. Scientists literally consider them one of the most perfectly adapted mammals on Earth. And it all starts with one staggering number, -70 degrees Celsius. They have the absolute warmest fur of any mammal in the Arctic. It's this super thick, double-layer coat that traps heat so well they don't even start shivering until the temperature drops to -70 degrees. Like, no way. And it's not just their bodies, even the bottoms of their paws are totally covered in fur. They're basically rocking perfectly designed, natural snow boots.
And this perfectly shows just how deep their biological engineering goes. They use this crazy system called counter-current heat exchange. Here's how it works. Warm blood pumps out from the fox's heart, and as it travels down, it actually transfers its heat to the colder blood that's returning up from its freezing paws. So by doing this, their precious core body heat is intercepted before it ever gets to their feet, keeping all that warmth trapped inside the body instead of leaking out into the snow. It is quite literally a built-in central heating system. Now, this extreme engineering totally extends to how they look, giving them one of nature's most epic seasonal camouflages. During the winter, that fur is snow white, making them essentially invisible out there. But in the summer, when all that snow melts away, well, they do something very few mammals can do. Their fur completely transforms to brown or gray. That lets them blend absolutely seamlessly into the melted tundra, rocks, soil, and whatever sparse vegetation is around.
Actually, scratch that, there's one wild exception to that rule. Not every Arctic fox turns white. There's a really rare coastal variant known as the blue morph fox, and these guys stay a gorgeous dark blue-gray all year long. For centuries, this super rare coat made them huge targets. In fact, in some parts of the world, fur merchants historically considered these blue morph foxes to be more valuable than actual gold.
Section 2. The behavioral software, hunting and high-risk scavenging.
Okay, so surviving the cold is really only half the battle. You still gotta eat when food just seems to disappear. And this brings us to one of their most mind-blowing skills. Picture standing in a frozen wasteland and trying to hear tiny little footsteps scurrying deep beneath thick layers of ice. That is exactly what the fox does to catch its favorite meal, the lemming. They listen intensely, tilt their heads to lock in on the sound, and then they leap super high into the air, crashing straight down, headfirst, right into the snowpack. The sheer precision of this snowdiving trick is off the charts.
So the big question is, how are they so accurate? Well, researchers have found some incredible evidence suggesting that Arctic foxes might actually be using the Earth's magnetic field to pull off these precise snow dives, kind of like how some birds navigate. It's a fancy term called magnetoreception. They literally sense the planet's magnetic energy to calculate the exact trajectory they need to punch through the snow and grab a lemming they can't even see. Nature just keeps getting stranger and cooler, right? But hey, lemmings aren't always on the menu. When food is scarce, imagine this contrast. You've got a tiny 3-kilogram fox trailing behind a massive 600-kilogram polar bear. They are absolute masters of high-risk scavenging. They will literally stalk polar bears, not to hang out, obviously, but they'll patiently wait for this giant predator to finish hunting a seal, and then they'll rush right in to snatch up whatever meat scraps are left behind. It's easily one of the boldest, most dangerous dinner strategies out there. But hey, survival here demands you be a little bold.
Section 3. Epic feats. Dominating the tundra. See, these animals don't just survive the Arctic. They absolutely conquer the place. Back in 2018, scientists tracked a fox that pulled off something stunning.
It traveled over 3,500 kilometers in just a matter of months. This little guy walked from Norway all the way across the sea ice of Greenland and ended up in Canada. To put that into perspective, for a mammal weighing just 3 to 4 kilograms, that's like a human walking across entire continents through blizzards and frozen oceans. Researchers were literally floored by the endurance.
And their homes? Just as epic as their road trips. Arctic fox dens are basically these massive underground cities. They get used by fox families for generations, sometimes hundreds of years, and they can have well over 100 tunnel entrances. Plus, because they leave food scraps and nutrients all over the area, the soil gets super enriched. The plant growth there gets so incredibly lush and green compared to the rest of the barren tundra that scientists can actually spot these fox dens from space. They are literally shaping the ecosystem right around them.
Section 4. The climax. A sudden vulnerability.
Now, despite mastering this frozen world for thousands of years, the Arctic fox is suddenly facing a very real existential threat. Historically, the deep freeze of the North was their undisputed territory. But as temperatures rise, the melting Arctic is changing the entire balance of survival. That warming trend is actually allowing red foxes to move further north into Arctic territory. And the thing is, red foxes are larger, they're stronger, and they're way more aggressive. So in a lot of areas, the Arctic fox is now actively getting pushed out and outcompeted for food and land by this new invasion.
And those warming temperatures are also creating this devastating camouflage paradox. Remember we talked about how their white fur is totally perfect for the snow? Well, when the snow arrives way later in the season or melts way earlier because of the warming climate, that brilliant adaptation suddenly becomes a massive liability. A bright white fox standing out on dark, snowless ground, they aren't invisible anymore, they're a giant, glaring target. The exact superpower that made them masters of the tundra is now working against them. It's a really stark example of how climate change is actively rewriting the rules of survival in the wild.
Section 5. The Ultimate Masterclass. What the fox teaches humanity.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, scientists love studying these foxes because they give us this absolute masterclass in extreme survival. By looking closely at their insane fur insulation, we get inspired to build better cold weather tech. Their knack for conserving energy is actually influencing the design of modern survival gear. And tracking those epic 3,500-kilometer treks across the ice, that helps researchers map out the real-time environmental shifts happening around the globe. So you aren't just looking at a cute, fluffy little animal here. You are looking at a masterpiece of nature, a living symbol of sheer endurance. It proves that sometimes the smallest creatures really do possess the greatest power to survive.
I want to leave you with this one thought to chew on. This animal thrives in a place where nature basically gives 0 second chances. But as the ice melts and the rules of the whole environment are being rewritten, how long can nature's ultimate survival machine outrun a changing world? It's a question that really challenges not just the future of the Arctic fox, but the future of all life pushed to the extremes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And honestly, I hope you never look at the ghost of the frozen tundra the same way again.